Welcome to Bet Racing Nation here on Sports Tonight Live. There's a lot of news in the world of racing, and we're going to cover as much as we can in a very short space of time over the next hour or so. And Fred Dunn has been in the news. We'll find out what for in a second. We'll talk about integrity in racing. That's a little bit later on. And does your horse, is it a non-trier or is it really running on its merit? We'll talk about that subject a bit later on as well. And if we have time, do you pay for tipsters? I'll be quite interested to get your views on paying for tipsters. One person who doesn't have to pay for tipsters is Billy Blakeman.
Evening, Peter.
Good evening, Billy. Jeff, good evening.
I have to sit next to the smell every time. Why can't you move me down here next week?
Oh, how can you be so unfair? Good evening, John. You've got a bit of a cold.
All you've got to do is ask yourself the one question. If the tipsters knew the winners, why do they have to sell them?
Absolutely.
Quite simple life. They say, oh, we can't get on, there's something ridiculous. So always remember, when you go to a tipster, why aren't they backing the horses themselves and not bothering with all the paperwork and getting your mug money?
Yeah, well, someone did say to me, well, you would pay for a painter, wouldn't you? So why not pay for a tipster? But we'll talk about later. Now, someone who is back taking your tweets, and we have got a Q&A for Big Mac here. If you've got any questions for Big Mac, he will answer them later on. Let's go over to Tom, and then maybe he can explain why he's been absent for a week.
I'm back, welcome back to Twitter Corner. I've been absent with a rugby injury nonetheless, but I'm back, and tonight will be a cracking show as usual. Some hot debate between our panel, of course, includes John McQuirrick, top independent bookie Jeff Banks, and our very own pundit and punting maestro Billy Blakeman. Now, first half of the show we'll look to cover a few topics. Hopefully we can steam straight into the news section. Apprentice Ross Atkinson failed to weigh in at Lingfield on Wednesday. 7-day ban, too much, not enough? How do you feel about that? Also, apprentice Sophie Ralston handed a 10-day ban for effectively not riding her mount Celtic Charlie genuinely. Now, she was given a 10-day ban. Was that sufficient, or should we be expecting these sort of rides from apprentice jockeys? Secondly, the news that Fred Dunn has taken ownership of the redundant Great Leighs racecourse to be renamed Chelmsford City Racecourse. How do we feel about this? Surely it's a positive move. More racing, more all-weather racing for fans like our own Billy Blakeman. Surely there's some haters out there as well, though, who just think this prevalence of all-weather racing isn't the way that we want to see the industry go. As well as that, we'll be talking Cider Grugy, who seems to be running scared of Sprinter Sacre on the 27th at Kempton Park. Is it bad? Is it possibly destroying, this matchup that we want to see? Or is it simply the fact that he needs a bit of a layoff, having run so well at Sandown last time? Tweet us in all of those points at Bet Racing Nation. We'll also be giving away 4 tickets to Taunton Racecourse. We just need a retweet and a follow at Bet Racing Nation for that. And I'll hand you back over to Pete to get the debate started and keep those tweets coming in the meantime.
Now, after that, we haven't got much time left. But that's obviously today the news about Great Leighs and Fred Dunn. Do you want to talk about that, Jeff, first of all? Because I know you were quite eager to talk about this. Is it another all-weather meeting?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, OK, I accept the all-weather is a valuable product, but we've got enough all-weather as it stands right now. I think the punters, the customers, British racing's customers are sick of endless dross and bad horses running endlessly every 10 minutes and all the rest. And now we're going to have yet another. Well, how many more tracks are we talking about? Catterick of talking about having an all-weather. Newcastle, they probably won't have both, but let's say they do. Now Fred Dunn buys Great Leighs, so now we're going to have 3 all-weather tracks. And for what? Who's interested in it? Who's in the betting shops betting on this product endlessly that would support yet another?
Fred's Dunn, he's making money from. So he obviously sees this as a grand investment.
I'm not worried about Fred Dunn. I'm talking about the customers of the racing. I don't care how much money Fred Dunn makes or why he wants to do it. It's just a publicity stunt. He can buy Great Leighs for nothing. It's got no fixtures provided by the British Horse Racing Authority. It's got no, in other words, so therefore it's valueless. It's also got some VAT problems and whatever with some of the connections there. It's a difficult product. So you could buy Great Leighs presumably for nothing. It's got no grandstand, so you can pick it up for £1. So it's just another Richard Branson publicity stunt.
Do you think it's a publicity stunt?
I think it's tremendous. And I think Fred Dunn taking over Great Leighs, calling it Greater Cheltenham or Chelmsford, wherever it is, or Chelmsford 8 miles away or something, somebody told me, so it's not quite next door to Great Leighs, but I think it needs Fred Dunn there. It needs transformation for the track. It's unbelievable they were allowed to open Great Leighs with no grandstand. It's like opening a hotel having no kitchen in it. So what they've got to do, the BHA quite rightly, for a lot of it for financial reasons, or what has been going on in the last few years, refused to give them a licence. And well done, the BHA. They've got to say to Fred Doan, we will not let you race on this course unless you build a grandstand. And he wants the grandstand on the far side, overlooking the course, with the paddock in front of the stands and all the ceremonies taking place in front of people. But the going is absolutely true. They love the ground. Trainers, especially down from Newmarket, love the ground. And people can say, well, there's too many all-weather tracks. If it doesn't pay, in the end, Fred Doan won't keep going with it if it doesn't pay. But I think he's a mercurial character, Fred Doan. He's come up from absolutely nothing. So people like him hate Fred Doan. Because here's a man who made it from absolutely nothing.
Because he's got no hair. He's bald, and he makes a pile of money. He's bought the tote. He bought the tote. He's made a mess of the tote.
He's not made a mess of the tote. He's not made a mess of the tote. How was the tote going before Fred Doan took over?
Record low returns on the tote these days.
Well, in fairness, what bookmaker wants the tote to succeed? You can imagine there's a big rival to bookmakers. Bookmaker owns the tote, so in his own interest would be overall to run down the tote. I don't think he's done that, but I'm delighted he's taking over at Great Leighs. I think he can make a terrific track of it. It would be really popular. There's a very good area in the Essex boys and girls and all that sort of thing. So
was the all-weather not the domain of the winter anyway? When did it become this?
All-weather is irrelevant. Here we have a racecourse that's been built. Whether it's all-weather or grass or candy floss doesn't matter. It's a racecourse.
We've lost Folkestone and Hereford, haven't we? So we've lost Folkestone and Hereford for a start.
The great thing about British racing is that it's a turf-based product. Yes, it is. That's the identity of British racing.
Only for toffs like you who live in Sunningdale. For the rest of us common people, we're pleased to go racing anywhere.
You've forgotten your roots, John, from Harrow.
Let's talk briefly. Let's move subject to Ross Atkinson for not weighing in. I mean, I would have thought that.
Does no one tell him? Does no one say, Ross, have you weighed in, mate? Do his colleagues not tell him? Does the clerk of the scales not say, Ross, you've got to weigh in? Or do they just all sit there in silence, waiting for him to forget?
It is hard to believe. I mean, it really is hard to believe. I mean, I have the greatest sympathy for the punters who've had a bet on him and all of a sudden, and therefore done their money. Although a lot of bookmakers, to be fair, do pay out on the double result. So many customers wouldn't have lost out on the.
Do you, Jeff? Do you pay out?
No, we don't. No, we do other specials. But the thing is. But the point is that it is incredible that he hasn't weighed in.
He doesn't pay out on the racecourse.
Well, we don't.
If results are reversed.
We try not to pay out
at all. That is one of the
John.
big scandals of going racing.
We're going to talk about that in the second part, John.
But you go racing, he doesn't even pay out. If it's reversed, everywhere else it is paid out. But as for Atkinson, it's a difficult one, this, because this is a human error. Now, if you deliberately ease your horse down or you don't try it, fine, I would be absolutely ferocious penalties. But even I make mistakes. This is a human error. He's made a mistake. Now, whether, as you're saying, there should be somebody there to make sure that the first four actually do weigh in, and it's their job to pick them up one by one, make sure they do. This happens about once a year. And remember as well, that our racing goes around the world. So what people must be thinking when they got an each-way bet, a place bet or whatever it is around the world, in Australia and America or something. And they didn't weigh in. It is very bad for our racing, but you think it was a very good interview on ATR he did afterwards, and he really was contrite. And poor lad, and he went out and rode a winner a couple of races later, give him credit. He held himself together to go and do that. It is a difficult one because it's an error. But if you drop your hands or don't try, that is deliberate. So there's a difference.
I'm going to have to leave you there. I mean, after the break, we want your tweets. Tom will be answering those tweets. Don't forget hashtag #AskBigMac as well, because we're going to have some questions to ask.
Well, there's no decent answers. They'll get to that one. So whatever a hashtag is,
well, we'll be back after this.